So today's video is like really a question. Modded games, are they finished products? Are they development platforms? And what's your opinion? And I want you to leave a comment below on what your opinion is right now, because if you're like me, you probably have a strong opinion, but I want to see if it changes as we present some material today. Now, this has been a topic on my Twitch show on several occasions where we talk about, is this really a game or is it so modded it should just be considered a development platform for the modders? And it shocked me just how many games there are with huge modding communities. And I was actually shocked that Cyberpunk 2077 is on the list. Although you can't mod through Steam, they do have a very robust number of mods available. 128 this week, 29 mods alone today have released for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I know when it comes to this particular game, a lot of people will say, if modding had been available right when the game launched, the game might have been received better. And I'm going to agree with you. I think a lot of the bits and bobs that modders have done in just little tweaks and turns made Cyberpunk 2077 better. There's other games on the list. I haven't played all of them. I have heard really great things about the Fallout community and the modding community. They do a lot of things. Absolutely massive amounts of things about the Elder Scrolls community. In fact, Skyrim is probably one of the most modded games out there. And I'll put a link to this article below. And as we scroll through, it should come to no surprise that the #1 game is Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now, the question becomes to mod or not to mod. And I can't believe what a huge industry modding is. It is a profession and a primary source of income. In 2023, Roblox, Fortnite, and Overwolf combined paid over $1 billion to creators. Overwolf, which includes the game developer platform, they paid out $201 million. And then Ark Survival Ascended, that wild dinosaur survival adventure launched less than 3 months ago. There are already 1,000 mods in circulation and 60 million downloads. Now, the question is, if a game has to be that modded, is it really a finished product? Did the developer do the diligence and polish it before they released it? Or did they release it knowing that they were going to have a very robust modding community? And I used to believe that if a game needed to be heavily modded, that the developer rushed through. But my opinion on that changed really when I started to become a member of the Crusader Kings 3 community, because there are a ton of mods for the game. But then there are modders who have basically made entirely new games in Crusader Kings 3. You have Lord of the Rings, you have Game of Thrones, and there's not really a good grand strategy Lord of the Rings game or a good grand strategy Game of Thrones game out there. Fallen Eagle receives amazing reviews from the community. And even something like there's a Warcraft mode. There's a Tales of Ireland mode, which is absolutely unreal. If you're a Crusader Kings 3 player, I recommend that. So it really changes the perspective. I think the developers at Paradox have done a good job. If you want to say negative things about Paradox, click on the video up there. Leave all the negative comments on that video because I'm compiling some feedback. But I think it's great that modders have been able to take a game like Crusader Kings 3, a good grand strategy game, and then been able to overlay other IP to it. We don't have a good Lord of the Rings grand strategy. We don't have a Game of Thrones. I also, while I was researching this topic, I found a great article from an Unreal programmer. And the Unreal programmer goes on to say, exploring the similarities and differences between mod creators and game developers. And what I really liked is modders often work independently or in small teams, using tools provided by the game's developer or created by their modding community. This might change aspects of a game's mechanics, even new levels or maps, add new characters or items, or even create entirely new stories within the game world. But the best part is, modders need to understand how the game works at a deep level. They also need to be able to work with others in the modding community, sharing their mods and receiving feedback. Truthfully, I have changed my perspective on the value of modders because I think modders understand the game sometimes even better than the developer does. Because the modder is able to say, I've reached 50, 60, 70% of the community. I have fixed a glaring hole. I have fixed a glaring error. And I wish more companies would look at that and say, yes, you did. We're going to pay you. I think $1 billion is a huge industry, but imagine how much better the games could be if they incorporated the modders' changes. And then that brings me to another question I want to ask you. At what utilization point should something be added to the game? If 70% of the players are using a mod, should that be added to the game? Maybe 70 is not enough. What about 80? What about 90? What about if 90% of a player base started using a mod, should the developers just say, we need to put the mod in? I also never considered this before, and as you know, if you know me from my community, I am terrible at understanding the idea of programming. I can't even HTML program. I have mad respect for the people that can get in, make mods, understand the language. I've tried. I just don't get it. My brain is not wired for that. But I love the idea that modding is the gateway to a career in game development. And I think this author shares what the previous author said. You start to develop experience with engines and tools such as Unreal or Unity. You pick a project that's small or large, and you don't have to worry about a deadline. Modding is a sandbox to experiment with unique ideas. You get hands-on experience. You get creative and experiment. You develop your skills. It's great for your resume. And I 100% believe this. And if your mod is truly exceptional, it could even become a game on its own right. Notable examples of mods that have become full-fledged games include Counter-Strike, PUBG, and League of Legends. Indie developers often have taken concepts they first created as a mod and refined them into their own standalone game. I think there's a lot of people out there that will say, oh, I wish that there was something I could do to better myself. Well, if you want to have a resume bullet, imagine going into an interview and they say, well, have you ever launched a product? And instead of being one of those people that says, no, I've never launched a product, you could turn on and say, well, I launched a mod for Skyrim that was used by 150,000 players. Well, that is going to mark you as different than the other 39 resumes in the pile. Now, how do the publishers respond? I think the publishers aren't exactly all on board. As you can see, we've got different styles of how they approach it. Like Electronic Arts approaches it with a mod freely approach. Electronic Arts engaged the active mod community and said, hey, we're releasing a game. And because they engaged with their mod community, they will benefit from the mod community's experience with the game and release a game tailored to its most likely users. The truth of the matter is, I think the modders know the community sometimes better than the company knows the community, because the modders are in the community listening to players. Obviously, if I make a mod, I might make it for just myself. And if only 100 people use it, probably doesn't represent the voice of the people. But if suddenly 150,000, 250,000, 500,000 people are using this mod, you can go back to the company and say, hey, I got something here. Mod for a free approach. Some of these is what we're talking about. By enabling modding in this matter, Bethesda is able to benefit from having programmers fix and improve its games without employing them. I think that the Bethesda idea is more the development platform, not a finished product. They do pay their modders, but they're paying basically freelancers. They're not having to have an employee. Some games, they don't enforce mods. They simply say they are what they are. But then you have the no modding approach, And Nintendo does not like mods. Nintendo is famous for taking aggressive action to defend its IP, and they will send cease and desist letters to modders as it becomes aware of the mods. Now, I could understand that because Nintendo wants to have a certain purity, a certain continuity of the game. Now, this is the point where I'm going to shift gears just a little bit, and I'm going to talk about add-ons. I did talk about add-ons in that video up above. It's, are we optimizing the fun out of games? But I did want to show this post because I'll say what's on everyone's mind. Add-ins are 100% responsible for the state of WoW that it's in right now. Add-ons like Deadly Boss Mod enhanced rating to the point where Blizzard started designing mechanics to be more complex and challenging. Compare Sunwell Plateau's difficulty to the Castle's difficulty, and you'll see how dumbed down the content has become because players complain that raid encounters are too hard. I think there's some discussion to be had here about add-ons in the realm of mods, but I think in some ways add-ons are optimizing the fun out of the games because you're not playing the game, you're playing the add-on is playing the game. Now, this could go two ways, and I don't really want to take away from the discussion on mods. I did want to address the elephant in the room and say, yes, I understand that add-ons in an MMORPG are a type of mod, but I really wanted to keep this with mods, not neglect add-ons. But now this is really the whole thing. If you didn't answer the question at the beginning, what's your opinion? Are modded games finished products, or are modded games development platforms that a company is relying on modders to make the game playable? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you next time.